everyone, welcome back to Miss Now Speaks, and I'm going to talk about quadratic functions. If you realize in my channel, if you've subscribed to my channel and watched my previous videos, I've actually talked about solving quadratic equations in a few methods. So just want to remind or do some recap that quadratic functions have a lot to do. So we can probably learn how to solve equations. We can also learn on how to form new equations given some particular roots, and we usually recognize these roots through alpha and beta, and we also will actually solve the quadratic inequalities given the types of roots that we actually have. So on the solving of quadratic equation, which in here I'm just going to use QF as a shortcut, we actually have learned to solve in a few methods. First, we can use factorization, and we can use the quadratic formula, and last but not least, we can use completing the square method. So I believe that you have watched my previous video where I've talked about how to solve quadratic equation using factorization and formula method. So today we're going to be focusing on completing the square method. So let's give an example of a quadratic equation. So where you have x squared plus 4x minus 6 equals to 0. And we would like to solve this quadratic equation here. So how do you actually solve this quadratic equation? First, in order to use completing the square, you must ensure that the coefficient of x squared, or the a, is equals to 1. So in this case, this is already equals to 1, so you do not need to divide any of the terms with the coefficient of x squared. Now what's next is you actually need to plus and minus some stuff here, okay, keeping the c on this side. So what is it that you need to plus and minus? Okay, this formula comes in. They say that you actually need to take the b divided by 2 and square it, and that is the value that you need to plus and minus. So what is the b in this case is actually 4. So 4 divided by 2 is 2, and 2 squared will be equals to 4. So you're going to plus 4 and minus 4 to make the whole equation sensible again. But we're not going to be worried about the last two terms, because completing the square will only look at the first 3 terms. And then you're going to square root the first term and the last term here. Okay, and then because the first sign that you see is a plus, so it is a plus. So what happens behind here? -4 and -6 will be -10. So now you have completing the square halfway done. Don't forget, we're doing completing the square because we want to find the value of x at the end of the day, right? And therefore you're gonna move your 10 to the other side. So this is not a very nice equation because you're not gonna have square root of 10, but always when you have square root, you have positive and negative, and then moving your 2 over, so you're gonna have positive negative square root of 10 minus 2. Using the calculator, you're gonna have 1.16 or negative 5.16. So there you go, the complete step for completing the square. We can try one more example here. So what if you have an equation now that has a coefficient that is not 1 for your a? So very easy, we just want to divide 2 by all the terms. So when you divide 2, so you're gonna have this here. Yeah, I know we don't quite like to deal with fractions, but what choice I made because it's given in the question, right? So I want to just draw the boxes here to remind myself that you need to plus and minus something. So again, what is it that you need to plus and minus? That would be the b. The b here in this case is 3 over 2, right? Divided by 2 and squared. So therefore 3 over 2 divided by 2 will be 3 over 4 and square it, right? So you're going to have 3 over 16. So, sorry, 9 over 16 and 9 over 16. So this is what we're going to have. So again, take the first term and the third term, square root them. So square root them, add a square here. The first sign that you see, negative, and then so you're gonna move this 9 over 16 and half over, and you're gonna have 1.0625. So again, positive negative square root because you bring the square over to the other side, and x equals to 0.75 plus minus 1.0625 square root. And using a calculator, you're going to have 1.78 or negative 0.28. So we're going to have another example here where we have the a now with a coefficient that is not 1, and the coefficient is actually a fraction. So we still want to get rid of the fraction or whatever number that is as the a if it's not 1. Okay, so in this case, you actually need to multiply 3 to have your a as 1. So every term will be multiplying with a 3 before you do your completing the square. So you remember you just will plus and minus some stuff here. So in this case, what you minus with or plus with is going to be 3 over 2 square. So 3 over 2 square is actually 9 over 4. So then you're going to take the first and the third term, square it down, and then we're going to calculate what is behind. So you're going to have 8.25, and then moving over the square root and move the 3 over 2 over to this here. So using the calculator, have this as your answer. So that's all for 3 types of example and solve quadratic equation using completing the square. You can always leave me a comment if you have any questions, so feel free to ask any questions if you have any doubts. Meanwhile, don't forget to do more and more exercises, and always remember to subscribe to my channel if you haven't. See you soon, take care, bye.